All right, guys, welcome back, everybody, to another Master and Apprentice video and podcast. Today, we're going to be going over the Republic. Now, if you've watched really any of the Disney Plus shows, The Acolyte of recent, but even upcoming, such as Skeleton Crew or Ahsoka, um, we know the Republic is a pretty big part of Star Wars and the galaxy within. From dating back, referenced from 1977, A New Hope, all the way to the prequel era, even to now the sequel era. The Republic's always been a part of the galaxy, but it's gone through many phases and eras. And today we're going to kind of go over all the main eras of the Republic, vasting from the old Republic all the way to the new Republic, thousands of years in between each era. So with all that being said, we're going to kind of go over each era, a brief timeline, some events, some characters, and then just kind of like the canon and lore and what it was established, the books, the novels, the movies, the shows, all of that surrounding it. So the first era we're going to be going over is the Old Republic. The Old Republic vasted from 25,000 BBY to about 1,000 BBY. The material regarding this is the Old Republic, which is a game, Knights of the Old Republic, and quite a few different books and comics. But the problem with this era is a lot of the material that was used to kind of build the lore and canon was decanonized. Disney made it into what's now called Legends. But a lot of the characters that are from these eras, like Darth Bane, Revan, Tar Vizsla, just to name a couple, have been referenced and named in established canon and lore and other shows and books. So we know that the characters from these games and books are canon. We just don't know what their stories are and the other characters surrounding it are. And because of all of this, there's not really a lot known about this era. But we do know a lot of this time was spent with war between the Jedi and the Sith. Some people call this the Sith War era because it was pretty much the Sith ruled the galaxy for a long period of this era, as well as the Mandalorians were a big factor. The history of the Mandalorians always dates back to war. Well, this was that era of war between the Jedi, Sith, and the Mandalorians, kind of going from side to side and being on their own as well. Again, not much is really known about this era besides lots of war and a couple legendary characters coming from some of the games.
The High Republic era dates from about 1000 BBY to 100 BBY. The material we see this in is stuff such as the High Republic novel series, the Acolyte, Young Jedi Adventures, and a couple of other references through Star Wars media. This is a time known as the height of Republic's powers for prosperity, as well as for the Jedi. Both the Republic and the Jedi were in much peace during this time. Innovations, exploration, all these good things were happening during this time. The Republic would bring in a lot of colonization and innovations to the outer rim of the galaxy. It would be this millennium that the galaxy wouldn't see a Sith or no war at all. While this was a time of peace and prosperity for the galaxy and the Republic, there would be many events and disasters to affect the galaxy as well, such as the construction of the Starlight Beacon, which was used to help civilize the outer rim. You guessed it, acting as a beacon on routes for travelers, as well as the fight against the Nile and its subgroups, a marauder group intent on pirating and fighting against the Republic's exploration and expansion. They caused many disasters, conflicts, and accidents across the galaxy over time. Lastly, some other events of importance during this era are the Great Hyperspace Disaster Infestation of Dreamgear, the fall of the Starlight Beacon. Some important characters of this era consist of Marchion Ro, Leader of the Nile, Chancellor Lina So, Jedi Master Avar Kriss, Maz Kanata, Jedi Knight Vernistra Ro, Jedi Master Stellian Gios, and so many more Jedi of this time. All in all, this period is a relatively new concept in Star Wars, with Disney now in just the past 5 years starting to introduce and explore this era and time. There's bound to be many new stories told and much more added to this era just in general.
Like Afton said, that was the millennium of which we heard Kiadi Monday mention they hadn't seen a Sith in a millennium. So that millennium ends around 100 BBY, meaning the High Republic ends about around 100 BBY and begins the Galactic Republic. It's the same thing in theory, but the Galactic Republic is, I think, more or less what we see on TV and on screen around Phantom Menace, even on Acolyte of recently, is kind of around the Galactic Republic era. This is where we see a lot of division in the galaxy, especially within the Republic, happen. This era is pretty much all the Star Wars films, at least all the Star Wars films mention or reference this era. It's mostly in the prequels, so episode 1, 2, and 3. It's big time in the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, and many comics and novels as well. Like I said, this is the era where we see a lot of conflicts introduced to the galaxy, turning into bigger deals. What were just kind of arguments in small divisions before are turning onto full-blown conflicts now. Some of these conflicts are the Outer Rim systems kind of turning on the Inner Rim. They never really got along, but as civilization kind of started to reach the Outer Rims, the Vision also started to kind of have its place in between Inner and Outer Rim. And this really started to see itself become prominent within the Galactic Republic era. We see corporations kind of now taking place because for, like I said, the whole Old Republic era, it was just lots of war. With all the peace in the High Republic, corporations and businesses are able to start becoming a lot more powerful. And we see them start to have big influence in the galaxy around this era. Some other things that we see are the Jedi becoming too much involved with the Republic and its politics, which is something the Jedi of the older eras would try to stay away from, or at least have that reasonable line in the sand. This era, they kind of started to blend as one, which was never the intention. And then finally, this era is marked with the return of the Sith that we hadn't seen in a millennium.
Impossible. The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
Which is obviously a big deal. All of these things kind of have smaller consequences, such as taxations on the Outer Rim routes, which really peeve off the giant corporations we were talking about, things like the Trade Federation and all of these giant corporations. They weren't happy with it. And like I said, they become a lot more powerful. And so we see things like blockades.
Yes, of course. As you know, our blockade is perfectly legal.
We see division within planets and systems, again, having conflict with one another. And because of all of this division and conflict, eventually it comes to a tipping point where systems and planets start to secede from the Republic. And because of this, it does feel first galactic civil war, naming it the Clone Wars. Obviously, we see this in the movie and the shows, but you might not realize it really all stemmed from politics in this era. Right? It wasn't just because of the Jedi and the Sith and the evil versus bad. It had a lot of politics involved as well. This war only lasted a couple of years, but was devastating to the galaxy in many ways, on countless death, on countless destruction, the fall of the Jedi Order, and the eventual end of the Republic. All of these things would essentially become the end of democracy in the galaxy. With Chancellor Palpatine, then Chancellor Palpatine, formally taking reins of the Republic, transforming it into the first ever galactic empire, and naming himself Emperor of the Galaxy. Pretty much anyone who stood in his way, he crushed and forced everyone else to join the Galactic Empire, really showcasing the fall of the Republic and its democracy around 19 BBY.
The New Republic era starts at about 4 ABY and ends at around 34 ABY. The material that we see in this is the whole sequel trilogy, The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka series, and a whole bunch of other books and comics. The era in the Republic is similar to both the High Republic era and the Old Republic. The fact is that almost all the old established canon and lore was turned into legends once Disney took over, and therefore a lot of the material is now Disney originals and has come out in the last 10 years. So after the fall of Emperor Palpatine, the Rebel Alliance restored the Republic and formed the New Republic. However, the war with the Empire was not over yet. So for much time after the formation of the New Republic, there would continue to be a conflict with the Imperial remnants. However, in 5 ABY, the Battle of Jakku would mark the final large-scale battle between the New Republic and the Empire, With the New Republic's victory, the galaxy would formally recognize the New Republic as the galaxy governing body. However, with much turmoil and animosity already surrounding the New Republic, both from the Galactic Civil War and the previous Republic's era of rule, the New Republic's hands were completely full with division and conflict from the beginning of their formation, leading to the Imperial remnants transforming into the First Order and gaining much power right under the New Republic's nose, which would lead into the fall of the New Republic in just 34 ABY, with the destruction of the New Republic's capital, Hosnian Prime, and the entire Hosnian system. Again, though, after the First Order was toppled by the Resistance, there would be space for a new galactic governing body. However, it's not established as a republic as of now. Some important characters of this Republic era are Mon Mothma, served as Chancellor, Leia Organa Solo, Admiral Akbar, Luke Skywalker, Hera Syndulla, and the list grows as Disney continues to add to the story.
So there you guys go. It's kind of a quick video, just kind of going over all the eras. The really only established era is the Galactic Republic era. This is the stuff that we see in the prequels and the Clone Wars. This era is really full of established canon and lore. I mean, every time I feel like they make a book on it, they really have to squeeze a time and point because they've already covered so much of it. But the rest of these eras don't really have a lot to them. Like we said, a couple of these eras had pre-established canon and lore, but when Disney took over and retconned all of it, these eras became empty. They became blank. And so for the last 5-10 years, Disney's really been adding a lot of canon and lore, new stories, new characters to these eras. And it's really fun to cover these because they're new and unique, but they also do have some ties to the previous canon and lore. So there you guys have it. It's kind of a quick breakdown. We could really go into each era with a lot more detail. If you guys like that, let us know down in the comment. Let us know if we're missing anything major. I haven't read a lot of the High Republic books. I've read like 1.5. I've read a couple of the comics, but I got most of my stuff from research and just watching videos. So if I'm missing anything else really major from the era, I probably am. Just let me know down in the comments. The New Republic era is a short time, kind of like the Galactic Republic era, but it's also a really cool time because, you know, after the Star Wars first came out, this was what a lot of fan art and fan stories were made from. It was during this era. We got things like the Heir to the Empire series and all the great Timothy Zahn books and all the Thrawn content and the, you know, Luke's Jedi Order, all that stuff that was established in this time, and Disney has completely changed that story. So they're really, really changing it and adding their own twist to it now. So it's interesting to see how that plays out and changes in this time. So lots of cool, fun stuff in this era and all of these eras. Let us know what your favorite era of the Republic is down in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you guys are listening on podcast, we appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that download and follow. And with that, we will see you guys in the next one.
Peace.